Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Season 5 of the Cowboy Up Podcast. Coming to you from the White Stallion Ranch in Tucson, Arizona, where you can experience your inner cowboy. And always, we have true stories, lores, and legends of the old Wild West. We'll meet some colorful characters, find some good books to enjoy, and have a bit of cowboy wit, wisdom, and truth. And today, Stephen chats with Russell True. Indeed, it's all true. And we're going on right now.
Good morning, Russell. How was your Independence Day?
Well, it was fun. We always say here that we make vacations, we don't take them. And so 4th of July was just in one way another day at the Dude Ranch. But Laura and Terry, one of our wranglers, is a really an accomplished video guy and has a drone. And so they did some fun drone footage and with flags and horses and pickup trucks. And I haven't seen it yet, and of course, Kristen and Mike always do a nice job decorating for any holiday. And everybody knows that I'm kind of the bah humbug guy, so they don't look to me for any help.
And I pulled in here today to White Stallion, and there's American flags everywhere. I just felt really good coming in here today.
Yeah, no, we love the 4th of July. We don't always love the fireworks because the horses and the dogs don't love them, but we don't do them here. But they're big and loud, so it happens.
They are that. So this is the start of year 5, season 5 of the Cowboy Up Podcast. Are you ready for a new season?
I am. I am very ready, but I am a little surprised that 5 years have already slipped away. But it's always fun to spend time with Alan and these great guests that Lynn finds us.
And I just you look at the fact that we've done 5 seasons, and the average podcast doesn't last more than about 8 episodes, and they just go away.
Is that right?
That's true. It's a verifiable fact, and this I think is probably episode 198 or 199, something like that. That's some decent longevity, sir.
Wow. Well, it's just such a great medium to meet interesting people and expand your own little world a little bit and hopefully share it. So, and we've got some new and interesting folks planned to be in this 5th year. So, we're going to try and widen the interviews and get some other people. So we're excited about
some
that.
Different viewpoints, and I'm very much looking forward to that, and I can't wait to hear what our guests have to say. And speaking about interesting guests, we're going to start year 5 with someone we've talked with in the past. There was a lot of positive feedback on his first visit when we talked about the history of White Stallion Ranch and what it was like growing up on the ranch. And today we're going to talk about the current state of dude ranching and the future of dude ranching. There's no one better than Russell True himself to talk about that. He is probably one of the nation's most salient and informed individuals on this. So, Russell, as we look at dude ranching today, how do dude ranches are holding up? How are they doing in the big scheme of things?
As you know, I've done it long enough, so I've seen the cycles, and of course, business cycles impact dude ranches a lot because dude ranches are not an inexpensive vacation. We always think they're high value, but so tough financial times are really tough financial times for dude ranches. So it's been pretty good for a pretty long time, and if you take out the virus, dude ranches have done well. There was a huge surge post-virus. And dude ranches really benefited for obvious reasons. People wanted to get out of the way and uncrowded outdoors. They wanted it, whether they were just sick of the whole virus thing and the lockdowns, and they wanted to get outside and do interesting stuff, or they had some lingering worries. Hey, where better to go to than a dude ranch? So dude ranches were one of the hot destinations, but like everything, that tapers out a little bit. So this summer, and summer is that period of time that so many people think of dude ranching. I mean, we're a winter dude ranch here, or winter-oriented dude ranch here, open in the summer. But the summer has dropped off. You know, the peak was probably last year and the year before, and so our dude ranch is doing well. Yeah, we're still on the radar, and we're still doing well, but we're a little off that.
Okay, but so we're basically holding our own, especially when you compare us to other forms of travel that are out there.
You know, I hear conflicting stuff. You know, you hear on one hand there's more people going to be, or were traveling over this weekend than ever before, and then on the other end of the spectrum, I heard this morning, that was a few days ago, about the 4th holiday, but I heard today that you know, there were a lot of discount opportunities in travel last minute as travel in some forms had declined. So, you know, everything's a mixed bag.
Okay. But when you come to a dude ranch, basically horses and heritage are still big things, aren't they?
Well, Dude Ranch Association, and I was involved in that message. We're coming up on our 100th anniversary, and so my great friend Mac McKinney always said, well, you know, dude ranches are about horses, hats, and hospitality, and we were trying as a board of the Dude Ranch Association, trying to define ourselves a little better, and both internally and to the world. And so we added 3 H's. So we call it the 6 H's of dude ranching. And I, for one, and I think most of my dude ranching friends and colleagues agree, 6 H's of dude ranching: horses, hats, hospitality, heritage, heart, and honesty, all combine to really give the message of what dude ranching really is.
Okay, that's fair. And I know here at White Stallion, we use our weekly rodeo to entertain and explain the tradition of dude ranches and guest ranches. I've attended these, and the takeaways for me were focused on the tradition. What do your guests tell you about what they get out of your rodeos?
You know, I mean, this is an honest response. I'm still surprised at the level of reaction that we get from some of our guests, and in a positive way. And, you know, our rodeo is small, and it's not a giant production, and we've got it pretty well down to a science. But, you know, we don't buck bulls, and we don't have clowns running around, and some of the typical aspects of a full-fledged rodeo. But what we do that isn't elsewhere is we explain it, and we have a long history, and so I'm able to bring ranching and rodeo history up through, starting in Mexico, up through the beginnings of ranching in America, beginnings of rodeo in America, combine how it all of that had roots in Mexico, and then we talk about the real life of rodeo today, meaning what it's like to be a competitor, what are the challenges, how does someone win at rodeo, because you've got judged events, timed events, and we tie all this together. We make it a full package, and for some reason that resonates.
Well, I can tell you, we attended one of your weekly rodeos recently, and my wife was left. When she left, she goes, "I want to go to a lot more of those because he was so interesting, and I learned so much." And that's when she started watching more of Heartland and Yellowstone, because she felt, kind of an affinity, a kinship with it, if you will.
Sure.
And that makes total sense. Now, there are different definitions, dude ranch and guest ranch. We consider ourselves here at White Stallion to be dude ranch. What's the big difference between dude ranch and guest ranch?
Depends who you're talking to. So if you're talking to me, I'm going to say it's timing. So I've done this long enough to where when we came into the business, I was a little kid, of course, in 1965, most of us, particularly, we were in Arizona. There were 24 still operating in the Tucson area, and still quite a few more out in the more rural areas. So there were quite a few dude ranches still in Arizona. And most of us called ourselves guest ranches. And part of that was, particularly as we went later into the 60s, the word dude started to take on some funny connotations, and not all of them were good. And so most of us were guest ranches. And then, I don't know, it could have, in the later 80s, my mother particularly, I never asked her, but she sort of grabbed back onto that word dude and called us a dude ranch. And I like the word dude ranch because it's the original. It goes back to our beginnings as dude ranchers. It's funny, we were in an Arizona dude ranch meeting the other day, and some of the ranchers were talking about they're much more comfortable with the term guest ranch than dude ranch. I really think it's a little bit cultural. It's a little bit individual choice. There are groups that represent dude ranches, tour operators, people write about guest ranches, dude ranches, and they define, they'll use guest ranch as one, dude ranch as one. They'll throw in working cattle ranch, working dude ranch. So there's terminology. It's usually used to help define the differences because we're so very different. You have the big dude ranches. If you take Arizona as an example, Tanque Verde and Rancho de los Caballeros, they have resort amenities. They're real dude ranches, but they're bigger and they're more on the resort side. And then you go to the smaller ranches like Sprucedale, which is a very, very traditional dude ranch. Cherry Creek, is a cattle ranch, small. So we're a diverse group. Sometimes those terms are used to define us. I don't do it. We're just dude and guest ranches. We use the word dude.
Okay, good enough. I mean, I know that there are people here because I've talked to them. They've been coming here for 25 years, sometimes longer than that. And when they get here, they don't even necessarily want to spend time on horses. They just want to bask in what White Stallion is.
I think, sometimes we refer to northern or southern dude ranches, but that's not really very accurate because here in Arizona we have summer-oriented ranches, and they're in the south here in Arizona. I mean, not southern Arizona, but southern part of the U.S. So, winter-oriented, summer-oriented, it's more in Arizona. The winter oriented, I think, are more here for the weather. And so if you take them as a group.
Okay.
So sitting at the pool, going on a hike, doing now for us e-bike shooting, et cetera, that's a draw. But for the summer ranches, I would say riding is a little more of the emphasis, but then they've branched more into the hiking and the wilderness and the fishing and the boating and anything. So I think dude ranches have kind of swung back toward doing more on the nature side with rafting and fishing and getting out and hiking and doing some other activities. We just have some modern ones such as UTVs or Jeeps or e-bikes or some of these things that even broaden the activities a little wider.
And that's one of the things that I find very interesting is we've kind of morphed from just horses to horses and shooting and e-bikes and full service spas and time at the pool and that sort of thing.
Right. I think to the extent the culture was interested in some of these things, they've probably been around at select ranches for a very, very long time. I mean, relative to dude ranch history. I mean, the first dude ranch Eaton started 1892. So what are we looking at? We're looking at 130 years of dude ranching.
Yeah.
So, as far as dude ranches have been going, I mean, some, they were interested in the hot springs down the road, or they were doing massage. I mean, Rancho de los Cabos had a golf course for a pretty darn long time. So dude ranches have been diverse for a long time. And the diversity that ranches, diverse activities that we offer are less a reflection of attitude and more a reflection of things that are available, such as e-bikes.
Now, would your parents recognize all the things that you offer now, or that would be completely out of left field for them?
Well, I mean, e-bikes, I don't know if they existed when
well, no,
my parents
probably
were
not.
alive. And rock climbing, because we'd had some real problems with people that weren't our guests climbing the mountains. I think they wouldn't have been very keen on the rock climbing idea. Our parents were pretty progressive, and they believed very much, as we do, in the traditions of dude ranching, but they also thought, you got to listen to the guests and do what they want. And if they want more stuff to do, then you better go find some stuff to do. And so some of it they wouldn't recognize, but I think they'd appreciate all of it.
Yeah, just like you said, the fact that you and your brother are very progressive, and you look at not what's going on right now, but you're looking at what's next.
Well, people, that's a common interview question if somebody's doing an article on you, and they say, well, what's next? And, if we have something planned, then that's the answer, but sometimes we don't. And my pat and sincere answer is, I don't know, but the guests will tell us before long.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I spend time here, and I notice we have tennis courts because there's still a lot of people that play tennis, and we don't necessarily have pickleball yet. And I know that's another big draw for people, and we've resisted on that one. And I think that's interesting.
Well, I mean, yes, we're behind the times on that. So tennis has been fading. We had 2 courts in the 70s, and there would be a line for the courts some days. So tennis was obviously a much bigger hit, certainly with our guests, and I think the public at large, than it is today. We have 1 court, and it doesn't get a lot of work. The basketball sport court gets a lot more use. The pickleball is obviously big. I watched some kids playing it last night actually, 3 nights in a row now. And so they're playing it kind of, best they can on our sport court. I've seen them doing it on the tennis court. That's an answer. That's a question we have to answer. Pickleball will come to White Stallion. We got to figure out how to do it.
We just don't know when.
So the first question is how, and then the next question is when. So we got to figure out how.
And they're both very good questions.
Yeah, I mean, we either have to repurpose something that's in existence or find space, and the space is a question.
Yeah, space is always the question, isn't it? I mean, you've got 3,000 acres, and you can't imagine you'd be starved for space, but you are. You absolutely are.
Well, it needs to be walkable, right?
Absolutely. So, okay, well, this has really brought us to the conclusion of where we're at. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what's next for dude ranching, what the long-term prospects for dude ranching are, and we're going to have Russell do it again. So looking forward to that. For over half a century, Durango has been building the world's best, most lightweight, and authentic traditional Western boots. Using the latest materials and innovative construction, every pair of boots is built on a long tradition of unmatched athletic performance and comfort technology. Whether working, riding, or roping, Durango boots are made for what you do. At Durango, we ride for the brand. We're proud of who we are and the boots we build. We honor the cowboy way and proudly live our Western values. This is Durango country. Pick up your next pair of Durango boots at Cowtown Boots. Okay, we're back now, and I really appreciate your time, Russell. So as we sit here today on July, in July of 2024, how many dude ranches or guest ranches exist in America?
So the literal answer is I don't know. The next answer is depends on how you define them. And the third answer is my best guess is somewhere in the neighborhood of 250.
Okay.
Nationwide.
All right. And is that over the last 10 years, is that up, down?
Slightly down.
Okay.
Not by a big margin.
Okay, not by a big margin. Okay. Why do you suppose it's dropped a little bit? Not by not a big margin, by your own admission.
The big threats to dude ranching are, number one, we already talked about hard financial times can be brutally hard on dude ranches for the reason that we're a somewhat expensive vacation. So as money tightens, that can impact the vacation public that can do it. But the bigger impact on dude ranching is that dude ranches almost all, probably all, have very high fixed costs. And as you get more and more rural, the costs become more and more fixed. So what do I mean by that? Dude ranches, horses have to eat whether guests are riding them or not. And you don't, shrink and grow your herd quickly or easily. So if it's tough economic times, you can't just start dispersing horses and then when things get better, easily run that herd number back up. So you're kind of stuck there. You have high property taxes often, and those, they're set. Insurance, very big expense for dude ranches. They don't rise and fall very much at all. Most policies don't reflect any gross rise or fall in your income. And as you get more and more rural, your staff becomes very fixed because, these are people that are living there, and you can't just say, well, I guess we're going to lay off, you, and you. And if it gets desperate enough, it may happen, but it rarely does. And then utilities, because, a lot of the infrastructure, have to do the cooking and heat the pools and keep the food cold. So it's much harder to weather the financial ups and downs, the economic rises and falls. So that kills some ranches. And the next, I believe, most likely end of a dude ranch is the value of the property. And as rural property really had this monumental spike during and post-virus, some dude ranches they became too valuable. There's no way to justify the value of that property with the gross revenue that the dude ranch could create. And so some people come in and they don't want to run a dude ranch. That's way too much like work. So they'll spend the money, buy the beautiful property, and it'll either become a family retreat, private retreat, or some of them have even gone in and knocked the buildings down and just built a big house and enjoyed the beautiful location that most of these dude ranches are on. It's those are the ones that'll really get a ranch. I mean, the other one is, and part of the reason we're doing what we're doing and we have multiple dude ranches is people age out, and a lot of their kids, they don't want to do this, and so, or they've gone on to other careers, or maybe they don't have kids, or the kids saw how hard their parents worked and ran like scared rabbits, and I get it. I mean, and so then the ranch is faced with, how do we monetize? I really don't like that word, but it's the modern word for this. How do we do that? And so sometimes they sell it in a way that isn't a dude ranch because there isn't this monster pool of people that want to work really hard and make it their entire lifestyle.
You and Michael were willing to work that hard and make it your entire lifestyle. What made you different?
Yeah, I think our parents, maybe they practice reverse psychiatry, or psychology. They told us, you should go do something else. This is hard and it's not really any money in it. And so we stayed. I don't know. I think they meant it when they said it, because I think they thought they were right. There were easier ways to make a living and more normal lives to live. And so I think, they did encourage us, but, the real tell that they didn't mean it in their hearts was they worked very hard, sacrificed, and struggled to make it possible for us to have the opportunity we do. So they set us up at their own detriment to have this opportunity. So,
well, I've got to think that adaptability in this particular business is incredibly important and incredibly difficult.
I think every little business, every big business, I mean, look, where's the video rental business now? I mean, anybody who knows anything past or present, things go away quickly when technology or demand or culture shifts. So every business, big or small, has to be adaptable. Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge in dude ranching, and this is why it's really, really hard, is you've got to adapt without losing the heart and soul of the dude ranch. And I can tell you that we've had, and my wife laughs still to this day, we have multi-hour meetings trying to, in our view, thread the needle between adapting and not losing sight of our core dude ranch experience. And so everybody has to adapt. Dude ranching has to be even more mindful of not leaving their past behind.
And you obviously do that. I talk to your guests, and they return year after year after year, and they don't return just because it's a dude ranch. They want to be they want to feel like they're part of what goes on here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm as whatever I would say, informed as to what brings people back as I really should be. I do know that people, our guests, like to see some change. They like to see, something polished up or nicer or some new fun thing added. But they're not big fans of when things change. I'll give you an example. A guest who hadn't been here for 6 years, and he's back, and I told me he had a nice day and brought his nieces, but he expressed to me he was really disappointed that I didn't come around and sign people up for rides anymore, which I had done for years and years. I mean, I don't even know how many years, and so I go around and sign everybody up. And as I explained to him that we'd expanded the riding options, our guests were less willing to just sign up for the morning, because that's all I could do before. You can't sign people up for 4 different, because we may have 7 or 8 options just riding in one day. We added the activities, and then the shift in people's behavior post-virus, as I explained to him, the guests don't mash themselves purposely and willingly into the dining room so they can all have this communal dining experience and all this fun together, which they do. But a lot of the guests, they any one night, I might see people eating dinner in 7 different locations, and including their own patios. So that's a bit of our past that we've heard a fair amount that people miss. And I always take it on 2 sides of the coin. I'm flattered that they miss me. I think that's kind, and I feel good about that. But I feel badly that they miss it, because I can't fix it, and it's just an undoable job now, and so that's I don't always know the guest experience until I hear about it.
Got it. That makes total sense. So if you had a magic wand, how would you change how we communicate what we do to reach a younger audience, dude ranching in general, not just White Stallion?
Well, I think, dude ranch is, let's say I'm right, and there's roughly 250 of us, and of those 250, probably 3/4 of them are seasonal. So, and most of the seasonal ones are summer, so they're running 3 to 4 or 5 months. The rest of the year they're closed. So think about us as an entire place that, and I laugh when I use the word industry. So if you look at all of dude ranching and you figure that maybe a typical dude ranch has roughly 20 accommodations, and you take that times 200 and, 4,000 accommodations rooms. Well, the MGM in Las Vegas has 5,500 rooms. Now, admittedly, it's one of the biggest hotels in the world, but it has more than all of dude ranching combined, and dude ranching is closed. Some of dude ranching, most of dude ranching is closed at least half the year. We're not very big, and we don't make tons of money, and so we don't have big budgets, and so we rely, and my father was a genius at this, and we try to follow in those footsteps. PR is our road to informing the public.
Absolutely.
And without PR, our collective marketing budgets not going to get the word out very effectively. So your question, back to the question. What I would want people, and the challenge is how to let people know, and the internet's helpful, but that egalitarian aspect of the internet's long gone. You got to pay to play there now, just like everything else. So it's a very big challenge to get that word out. But the word that you want to get out is that, this stuff is real. The experiences are very, very real. You're getting on a real horse. You're going to fish in a real stream. You're going to climb a real mountain. You're going to shoot a real gun. These things, it's all very, very real. It's all very, very natural. And that, the other piece of that is you've got to try to define this diverse offering that's dude ranching, and yet explain to them, as I've said many times, we're not asking you to sleep in bad beds with the springs poking through, beans 3 times a day, a little bacon thrown in, and people from Deliverance running around with a straw out their mouth and suspenders on their shoulders. This isn't what some people perceive dude ranching to be, but at the same time, it could be, sleeping in the home of the cattle ranch owner and getting up with him and his wife and going out and chasing cows around, or going to one of our beautiful resort level, but not a resort, dude ranch. It's a tough message to get out, because I think people have a lot of misplaced expectations about who we are.
Does it largely come down to it's an experience versus a vacation?
Well, I think yeah. And of course, experience, came into the forefront 20 years ago, and everything's about experience. Authenticity was the next one. And, every time we hear something like that, we think, oh my God, we're all going to be full, because that's what we do. People are looking for experiences. We'll all be full all the time. We're going to be finally making big money. So yeah, it's all about experience, but you still got to get that word out that, hey, we are a real experience. Somebody was telling me yesterday at the breakfast ride, they said, oh, gee, it was so good. Our kids much prefer it to Disney. And I said, well, our standard line is, the lines are much shorter and the rides are much longer. And so they've got to experience to know that. And so, yes, experience, yes, authenticity. Yes, you can get the quality and style of experience you want. There's a dude ranch for literally everybody, but they've got to know that that's the case.
Perfect. That makes sense. One last question I have. The Dude Ranch Association is getting ready to honor ranches that have been in operation for more than 100 years. And I know Rancho de la Osa is one of those ranches. I want you to talk about that promotion that the Dude Ranch Association is doing, why they're doing it, and why it's going to matter.
So Dude Ranch Association was formed in 1926 with the urging and the financial support of the railroads, Great Northern, down here, Santa Fe Railroad was a big promoter of dude ranches. They wanted the passengers to come out because it was a great way and because passengers were high margin freight, so to speak.
Okay.
So they worked very hard to get the Dude Ranch Association formed. We're told it's one of the oldest. It's of course, in 2026, it'll be 100 years old. And we're, as Dude Ranchers, very proud of that. And as a person who's been involved in the Dude Ranch Association for a long, long time, I'm very proud about that. So we have two different efforts that the Dude Ranch Foundation, which is a 501c3 arm of the Dude Ranch Association, which is a trade organization, has different tax status, which slips my mind at the moment. But the Dude Ranch Foundation, with the assistance and cooperation of the DRA, because it's really the story of the Dude Ranchers Association, is going to create a documentary that, all things go well, will be aired by our 2026 convention in 2026. And so it'll talk about these dude ranches and dude ranchers that have had such a huge role, frankly, much underrated, for I understand why, but very underrated role in forming and creating what we know as the West in those early days around the turn of the century and into the World War II era. So that documentary will be coming out, and we're working real hard on that through the foundation, which I'm chairman of at this point, and the chairman of that committee. Our little group, the Ranch Preservation Foundation, which is run by my partner Jay Wells, we will be creating a book to commemorate the 100th anniversary, and we're going to have, it looks like, about 20 plus ranches that were taking guests in 1926 and are taking guests today. It doesn't mean you took guests every single year, all those 100 years, but you were taking guests in 1926, and you're a DRA member and taking guests in 2026. And of those 20 plus ranches, it looks like, we've got 4 of them, Cowboy in Wickenburg, and that's the oldest operating dude ranch in Arizona. We've got Rancho de la Osa, which is shockingly, unbelievably historic, started in 24. And then we've got Blackwater Creek outside Cody and Circle Bar in Montana. And lots of other great ranches are going to be part of this coffee table book created by Scott Baxter, who's a very famous photographer here in Arizona. Did the 100 ranches, 100 years, 100 ranches book for Governor Ducey for our state's 100th anniversary. So we got 2 projects. They're going to celebrate that 100th anniversary, and we have a role in.
So, Russell, we're up against the clock. I want to say thank you for your time. I know you don't have that much of it because, again, you run a dude ranch, or do you run a guest ranch? I never know.
Both.
But, I really appreciate your time. Now, you've got guests to take care of. They're waiting for lunch. You better get back at it. Thank you again, Russell.
Thank you. We were talking today about the Dude Ranchers Association 100th anniversary coming up in just over a year, and we talked about how 4 of our True Ranch Collection ranches are going to be part of that, and of course we're pretty excited about that, but we're really excited about the reaction we're getting to the ranch just outside Cody called Blackwater Creek. It's been there over 110 years. It's 15 miles from the east entrance to Yellowstone, 35 minutes out of Cody. Our guests are getting to do a raft trip, go to Yellowstone, go to that great Cody rodeo every night of the summer, and so we get them out there for one of their nights, and it's just been everything we'd hoped it would be. Our first summer there is working out very, very well. But still one of my favorite places to ever be is central Montana at Circle Bar Ranch. They were showing me some of the great photos. I think it was, I don't do Facebook, but I think they were on Facebook, and it just made me sort of lonesome for Circle Bar. I spent a few weeks up there last summer, and it's just another great place. Some of the best riding in the North Country, so to speak. And of course, here in Arizona, we're busy as we could be. We've had 70 to 80 guests this week at White Stallion, and keeping everybody busy. And of course, sort of ordinary heat, that 100 to 105 range, and we get out early and get stuff done. And it's a little hot in the afternoons, of course. And Tombstone, it's got that very pleasant 8 degrees cooler than Tucson attribute down there, and so they're a great staycation for Arizonans who want to go see Tombstone and get away and do something very unique with our Old West style bar and the whole theme and historical context of Tombstone. So we've got quite a bit going on here in Arizona and Wyoming and Montana. Of course, Rancho de la Osa and KL Bar will be back open in September, and then we'll start to close down up north.
Well, thank you, gentlemen cowboys, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're so grateful that you take time to spend a little time with us and recommend us to others. And we are also grateful that you, from time to time, recommend good shows and good ideas to us. So we'd love to hear from you. CowboyUpPodcast@gmail.com. CowboyUpPodcast@gmail.com. And tell us what you think. Tell us what you want. Perhaps even introduce us to you and to some people who would love to be on our program. We have an amazing group of characters and creatures and ideas, and you'll learn more here by accident than most places by design. And someone once said just recently, it's good to get away from maybe the heat of the weather and the heat of the politics and just take some time to be grateful and thankful and enjoy the good things we have, like the cowboy legends and lore. So let's do a little bit of that. Have a good weekend and a good week. We'll see you next week. Till then, happy trails to you, and bye for now.
Storm rolled in from the western sky. 2,000 head of steers took flight. Good night, paid those boys to ride, and by damn they would, though some might die. Don't say goodbye to the cowboy way. Tradition lives, and it's here to stay. 100 years and growing strong today. So don't say goodbye to the cowboy way. She's 10 years old on a stout bay horse. 300 years they guide her course from the Spanish quest to the blue and gray, to what we call the cowboy way. Don't say goodbye. Don't say goodbye to the cowboy way. To the cowboy way. Tradition lives, and it's here to stay. 100 years ago and strong today. So don't say goodbye to the cowboy way. Rawhide and steel, hooves and horns, legacy to the yet unborn. that comes from a hard-lived life. Your destiny when you're born to ride. Don't say goodbye to the cowboy way. Tradition lives, and it's here to stay. 100 years and growing strong today. So don't say goodbye to the cowboy way. Don't say goodbye. Don't say goodbye to the cowboy way.
And all of us at the Cowboy Up Podcast, we tip our hats and say thank you to Jim Jones and the Posse for that wonderful theme song we get to play all the time. Don't say goodbye to the cowboy way.